Hi, it's Johnny Ray from Fibrenews, and in this episode I'm joined by Jeremy Chelot. I'll admit I've been calling him Jeremy Chelot for about the last 5-7 years, so really great to know how to pronounce his second name now. In this episode, we talk about the rapid scale of YouFibre and Netomnia. We talk about the merger of YouFibre and Brsk. We talk about consolidation in the market. We talk about the behind the scenes from YouFibre and their incredible internal tech stack. We talk about how to scale a business. We talk about investment. We talk about Topsco. This episode really does have it all, and I think we will be having Jeremy on more than just this episode because there's so much to talk about and try and cram in an hour and a half. So first of all, thank you very much for tuning in, and I really hope you enjoy the episode. Secondly, I just want to talk about our directory, which we launched as of the 1st of December. It's a wholesale directory which hosts suppliers, wholesalers, distributors, everything in between, the value adds. If you're in the telco or the broadband space, whether it's B2B or consumer, we have made a directory which lists every single supplier and wholesaler and distributor that you can think of. We're constantly adding more. But if you need to find a new VoIP supplier, if you're looking for a new hardware vendor, if you're looking for a new IoT supplier, a VoIP supplier, connectivity wholesaler, this directory lists all of those, and you can search by keywords, by services, and everything else. So go and have a look at that. You can go onto fibrenews.co.uk and click on directory, or you can go to the subdomain, which is directory.fibrenews.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening to that. Now on to the episode. Really hope you enjoy.
Good place to start is, do you want to talk about your past? I don't think we need to too much because you've got enough going on in the recent that we don't have to bore everyone too much on your past history. And I think everyone who's going to be listening to you is going to have an understanding of where you've come from and what you've created. But it'd be good to give our very few new listeners to you, Jeremy, an overview of the two brands that you represent, or maybe three now. I don't know your current position.
Three.
It is free. Fine.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe four if you add the group.
If you had the what?
The group.
Which is called?
Substantial group.
Fine. Okay. So the four brands that we're talking about are Netomnia, YouFibre, and Brsk. So give us an overview, first of all, give us an overview of Netomnia and then how they interact with the other two brands and everything else. Let's start there.
I mean, if you look at all those brands, and I think for that conversation, I think it's better to look at all of them part of one group and one company. So for us, how we look at those group of companies, really we split them in two. So the first part is what we call the NetCo, which is Netomnia, which is a wholesale and fiber platform, but also include the Brsk element, which is also doing wholesale and fiber. And then there is the ServCo, which is the internet service provider, which has YouFibre as one brand, and Brsk has also a brand for consumer, and therefore we look at it basically with that split. But when I share some numbers today or anything like that, I will try to look at it as just two groups, so the NetCo group and the ServCo group.
Fine. So the net is Brsk is still building out as Brsk, and Netomnia is still building out as Netomnia. Or have you? Currently,
they do, and the idea, and this is quite unique, I think, from a merger and acquisition process, is the fact that when we decided to merge, you actually bring a set of companies that are all growing very fast and performing. So you've got two very strong build engine.
Yeah.
So the Netomnia build engine and the Brsk build engine, and you also have two strong customer acquisition engine, the YouFibre acquisition engine and the Brsk acquisition engine. So for us, when we decided to come together, there was never really how to deliver as much synergies as possible or how to save as much cost as possible. And usually what you see in this type of sector, and let's get rid of as many people as possible and try to cut down costs. That was never the idea of that merger. The idea was, it looks like we've got fantastic people. All the companies are already very lean. Therefore, how do we leverage actually all those people to do even more? And this is why now on a combined basis, I think in October alone, we did almost 100,000 premises ready for service in a month. Which is like incredible as a number. But also on the customer acquisition side, we managed to do 17,000 net addition in a single month, and that was the the idea since the beginning is let's leverage everybody and do more,
Yeah.
rather than focus on extracting as much synergies as possible and as much.
You tend to be connecting a lot of customers. So you hit 150,000, which we released on the press very recently, and I think I wrote in there. I had a look back that you've doubled your connections in the space of 11 months. Well, in the space of 12 months, you were at 75,000 12 months ago, and then you've added an additional 75,000 within that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually I refer more to the number back in December 2022, which now is almost 24 months ago. In 24 months, we'll have done it 10 times in terms of customer growth. So we went from, I think it was 24,000 customers at the end of 2022, early 2023. And we're expecting to finish the year at 235,000 customers. And therefore, yeah, it's like crazy. So the idea is to do 10x as quickly as possible on everything we do. And it's working.
What area is the most powerful in terms of customer acquisition when it comes to scaling quickly? Is it the digital marketing side? Does it have to be field? Is it a combination of both? And what have you found? And then I've got a question after that, but you go.
Yeah, it's I don't know which one is the most powerful, because I think first you have to start from the proposition that you've got. So obviously I've been doing that for a long time now. So I did that at Community Fibre before, then YouFibre, now with YouFibre and Brsk. And since the beginning, and sometimes marketers tell me you can't use those words, but that was always for me the plan is, okay, how I can build a proposition where you have the fastest product, you've got the best product, and you make it as cheap as possible. And that was the ethos at Community Fibre. That's the same with YouFibre and Brsk, where I think the proposition is just very strong. It's if you offer, like, I don't know, a Ferrari to someone at the price of a Lada, and at the same time, basically, when you ring the guy, basically, they take the car in the garage and fix it basically almost immediately. You say, okay, my God, wow, what can go wrong? And therefore, it's always been relatively easy to sell that product. And to some extent, it's not. So sometimes one piece of information which is interesting is back in the day when I used to sell this type of product at Community Fibre, OpenReach didn't have full fiber. So OpenReach only had FTTC, so the maximum you could get was about 80 meg.
Correct.
Because they were in the process of upgrading to FTTC, and they decided FTTP was not for them at that time, back in 2016, 2017. And Virgin Media, with their DOCSIS network, was also not as fast as it is today. So you could get a 200 meg, maybe a 300 meg if you're lucky. And so at that time, I was already selling a gigabit. And at that time, a gigabit was 10 times faster than what OpenReach could do, and several order of magnitude faster than Virgin Media. And yet, my growth rate a month was maybe 0.8 to 1%, and it's still the same today. Despite actually now the speed gap has actually disappeared, because OpenReach can sell a gig, Virgin Media can sell a gig.
Right.
Therefore, I've lost the speed advantage, and yet I'm still selling exactly the same thing. So for me, I think the two most important part on the product that we've got is not so much the speed. I think the speed is an important factor, but this is the combo of great customer service and great price, because that's the thing that has stayed consistent over the last 10 years, and I think this is what is drawing basically people onto this network. It's okay. I want great customer service. I want a great price, and on top of that, the speed is fantastic. But in terms of go-to-market and channel, I think you have to have your army, so your foot soldier, so your field sales force is very important. We wouldn't be able to do what we are doing without them. But it's everything together. So you need a strong brand. You need your foot soldier. You need kind of your telesales people. You need people great at doing digital. Great people at doing brands. You need also your customer to be a strong advocate for what you're doing. And it's I think everything they work all together. If you have only one or two of them, just the engine basically doesn't work very well.
Correct.
If your brand is not good, it becomes very expensive to do it. If you've not done your marketing correctly, then the people, when they knock at the door, this is the first time they hear about the brand, therefore the sale is more difficult. If you've not knocked at those doors, lots of people will not try basically a new up-and-comer, will not even give it a chance. If you've not organized your website and your digital correctly, when the telesales team calls, it doesn't work either. Right? You have to have all those pieces together, and that's what we see. There is so much you can do with only one channel. You need all those channels to work together. Even now, one of our biggest channel is YouSwitch, for example. So having actually comparison website and so on, it's another important channel basically to us. So it's everything together.
Do you find you almost always win when you come up on a comparison website? One, because you're available. Two, you know you're going to be cheaper than a national competitor.
Yeah, we always win, and I think we pay a bit more than the than the other guys. But I think, as I say, I think if you put side by side our product versus our competitors, is we always win just because we always have at least the same speed, if not better. And obviously for us, we sell also 2 gig and 8 gig.
What's the crack with the 8 gig stuff? Is that?
It's what the technology can do, so why not?
Okay. And is that available to everyone, or is it something you've tried? It is.
Everybody. We've got hundreds of customers buying 8 gig from us, and we've got thousands of customers buying 2 gig from us. So we've got. I think since it's important to people to showcase basically the technology. It's the same thing why car manufacturers sometimes they go into Formula One or they go into a racing car. It's okay. Let me show you what I can actually do. It's not just you can, because in reality people don't need 8 gig. They don't need 2 gig. You could argue that maybe even 1 gig and so on is not required, but if you can do it, why not?
Was it a big project internally to get your network ready to be 8 gig? Why aren't more networks and their anchor ISPs launching heavier bandwidth packages?
It was nothing. It was like flicking a switch.
Yeah.
So it's there was nothing. The most difficult was more to convince the board to do it, because they say, Jeremy, why are you doing that? It looks like something that people will ask the question and keep asking you why you're doing it. I say, yeah, but at the same time, this is what I think we want to be known for. We, since the beginning, within the fiber industry and the ISP, we've been known as the innovator. At the end of the day, Openreach and Virgin Media will not be doing what they are currently doing, i.e. upgrading their network or delivering fiber, if it was not for the altnet. And I think Virgin Media and some of the other altnet will not be doing XGS-PON if it was not for me and Andy at Truly, because when everybody was kind of laser focused on GPON technology, we decided to do XGS and so on. And now
From day one?
At Community Fiber, I started XGS in 2018. So I've been doing XGS-PONs since 2018. I think Andy had Truly started even earlier than that, in a much smaller deployment, but started earlier than that. And from us at the time, that was, again, it's to show innovation.
Yeah.
It's to actually provide a differentiator in the market when you look at the quality of the infrastructure, but also what you can sell to customer. If tomorrow providers try to fight us at a gig, I can flick a switch and only sell 2 gig. And that's something that a lot of providers will struggle to do. And if they, even with a GPON technology where you can potentially push it to maybe 1.6, 1.8, tomorrow I can do 3, can do 4. It doesn't cost me more to do that. So I can keep basically.
Why weren't more networks rolling out XGS-PON from the start? Is there a huge, large cost?
Yeah, historically the cost was materially higher. So especially on the equipment that you have in the home.
Yeah.
So back in the days when I started at Community Fiber, I think the equipment in the home, so the
ONT.
kind of the modem, the ONT, that's right.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe in the region of 70 quid or something like that.
Fine.
Whereas you could get the same version of on GPON at 20 pounds or less.
Fine. Okay.
So there was a solid 50 pounds. So now if you're going to do that in 5 million premises, 50 quid is material, so you're not going to want to do that. But for me, I was looking at it from a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
Is when you look at your cost to pass, your cost to connect, your cost of acquisition, that number was not as material, and I was also expecting that cost to come down very quickly. Whereas now the cost is closer to £30.
Yeah.
And therefore now the gap between GPON and XGS pound is very small when you compare it to your cost to pass, your cost to connect, your cost of acquisition. Therefore now everybody think, oh, it's a great idea, let's do it. But at the end of the day, that's the point of innovating is if people don't do it or don't take a leap of faith with this type of technology, then nobody does it.
Yeah.
And whereas as soon as somebody does it, then people don't want to be left behind, and then it starts dragging people, and they start following you. And so we try to be the innovator as often as we can. That's why currently we are discussing about 50 GPONs. So we want to have the proper a proper commercial launch of a 50 GPONs at some point next year, and it will be available to residential, just to be clear, but we don't expect a lot of residential customers taking that. I think it will be more for businesses and enterprise. But again, the point is to demonstrate that on the infrastructure that we build, we can carry on basically increasing speed and providing faster and better services without having to upgrade everything. And that's I think it's a very good differentiator.
Why did you launch with a network and an anchoring ISP instead of just being a network only or an ISP only? Is that because of your experience from previously? Is it something that the vendors were attracted by?
Yeah, I think back in the days in 2019 when I incorporated Netomnia, I think the jury was still out between a wholesale only model like CityFibre, or kind of a retail only model, like maybe a hyper optic, or somewhere more in between, and which has a wholesale and retail. And I would argue Openreach and BT are something in between. Openreach is a wholesale network. BT is the largest anchor tenant. If you look at Virgin Media and Nexfibre is technically a wholesale only, but they come with an anchor contract with Virgin Media. So at the time, I think the jury was still out whether one model is better than the others. So I wanted to sit on the fence. Therefore, I thought, okay, let me create both. Therefore, in the future, if at some point you have a very stable, basically wholesale network in terms of your customer base, and then maybe you don't have a retail ISP.
Yeah.
If you can never attract a large retail ISP, maybe at some point you are completely vertically integrated and you bring it together. Or if you find basically a happy middle which is where we are landing now, and that's why we've got the split between Netco and ServCo, and that new contract with PXE, where it looks like there is a very happy middle, where we can provide wholesale services to large ISP and smaller ISPs in the future, but also have our anchor that we control with YouFibre and Brsk, which provide a lot of just de-risk what we are doing, and it's very nice because as long as YouFibre and Brsk delivers, I can sleep very well at night.
Yeah. Quick one for me. I just want to talk about this episode's sponsors. We've got two sponsors, and the first is Elevate Wholesale, making wholesale connectivity as effortless as it should be. That's the promise from Elevate Wholesale, the channel division of Elevate, from the artists previously known as Telcom, Luminet, and Giga Britain. This strategic rebrand redefines the company's mission to deliver a streamlined and seamless experience from one ground-to-cloud wholesale partner. Ground to cloud is how Elevate described their strategy of providing end-to-end, fully outsourced wholesale connectivity and network services for channel partners, a nod to their diverse fibre in the ground and rooftop wireless in the cloud. Also, their partners can now fully outsource wholesale network services, including managed Wi-Fi and LAN, firewalls, SD-WAN, and cyber security. Elevate Wholesale has built an amazing community of over 300 partners in just over a year, and they're on a mission to transform the UK telecoms industry, which they say partners have told them it's characterised by slow delivery, impersonal service, and unresponsive providers. So a new name, a new look, and a new brand with a refreshed commitment to the channel. If you want to find out more or get involved, then you can get in touch with Will Goodall, their head of wholesale. He's been on our podcast as well before. The second episode sponsor is Get Crisp. Get Crisp are a marketing agency and software development house that have been supporting the telco and broadband space for the last 8 years. The guys and girls there do everything from content writing, videography, video editing, web design, web build, sales automation, cold outreach. These guys know what they're doing. They're all ex-telco guys and gals. They understand our industry. They're refreshing to deal with. I've used them personally. They built the Fibrenews website. They've done many other projects. And when I was a consultant, those were the guys I would bring in for anything outsourced. So if you want to reach out to them, again, their details will be in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. Thank you very much. Back to the episode.
Do you think, and you've also managed to raise a lot of cash, is it helpful having the anchor brand and the network side by side? They've obviously both been successful, but is it almost, can you like balance them off each other when it comes to refinance and things like that? They look at it as a whole, or is it always separated?
I mean, the pitch is we are wholesale ready by having done that, and it does help with the story because we can explain to future investors and lenders that we have a credible wholesale story where bringing a large retail ISP on that platform can be done easily. Whereas when you are vertically integrated, there are a lot more questions that can be asked. Is how you're going to manage basically that relationship? Are they really going to believe that all the ISP are being treated basically fairly? Whereas for us, you can audit the financial account and you can see actually transfer pricing. You can see basically. You can see even SLS miss and fine between companies, and it's everything transparent down to how the teams are organized. So teams are completely rig fans that sit in completely different company. They have their own Christmas parties, and it's. I think it's the right model because what you want is to give confidence to large ISP that they are going to be treated fairly on the platform.
Yeah,
and that was the point.
Fine. So is the wholesale space now a big concentration for you now the merger of Brsk is out of the way?
Yeah, it is what I spend most of my time on because I need to bring basically the two networks together and making them look like one.
Yeah.
And it's not that difficult actually, so that will be fine. And we're expecting the two networks to look like one in the first half of next year. And yeah, after that, I think is we want to successfully onboard TalkTalk and PXE, which is what we are doing currently, and we are hoping to have their first customer on the network in the first half of next year, and then I don't know, try to convince maybe Vodafone and Sky and maybe Virgin Media and BT after that. Who knows? And
do you not think that relationship's a bit sour from where you've built over the last 4 years?
We all like each other.
That's right.
It's no, but joke aside, is because of how we build our network. We've got very attractive economics and a very attractive wholesale pricing, which makes it, I think, a very strong proposition for any ISP. I think it will always be difficult to attract BT. Or Virgin Media, but I think when I listen to Greg from YouFibre, that is the goal. So why not going for it? And it's but at the end of the day, the point is the business plan that we have was always funded on the basis of one retail ISP only, which is YouFibre or Brsk, and for our wholesale is really the icing on the cake or the cherry. It was never basically the number one priority because I like owning my destiny. I like being in control of what I can do, because otherwise there is need too much hope, and I don't like that.
You said a very bold statement of merging the two brands, Brsk and Netomnia, together is not that hard, and it should be done by next year. So
Next year.
Okay. So that typically, this is a big talking point within the industry, that the merger part, when it comes to all the back office and everything else and merging networks, is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult, and normally they spend unhealthy amount of money externally with consultants and everything else to make that happen. So why do you think you're seeing success in a very difficult task?
I guess it's been the same. So building fiber is supposed to be extremely difficult, and adding customers is supposed to be extremely difficult, and running those companies with spending not a lot of money is supposed to be extremely difficult. And I think whether you look at Brsk or Netomnia or YouFibre, those are exactly what those companies have managed. They've managed to build a network extremely fast, acquire customer extremely fast, and to do that with spending significantly less money than anybody else. And therefore, I think we've got a track record in when people think something is very hard and difficult, to make it easy. And I think that. Don't take me wrong. Maybe I'm just being naive, just to be clear, because I've never done a merger and acquisition before. Therefore, maybe it's just extremely hard, and I will struggle. But it has already started because we closed the transaction at the end of August, and we are all working on it. And so far, we can see that it will be completed by the first half of next year, and we haven't found so far basically a material issue or something which is going to stop us to do that. Actually, the networks are already integrated. Now there is traffic flowing basically across them. We've rebuilt a brand new IT stack to do.
You do a lot internal, don't you? A lot.
Yeah. So we've built. We have a platform called Odin.
Yeah.
And that platform it's most likely the only platform of this kind in the world. It's a platform that we build in-house that can take a fiber plan that we do using QGIS, which is open source. And so we do all our planning in QGIS, and then that plan gets into our system, which is called Odin. And then from that system, we can manage the entire build process. So we can look at evidence, know whether something has been cabled. We've got access to all our splicing matrices. And then we can make also payments to contractor. And then we can audit the quality of what we are doing. And when a home becomes ready for service, then it automatically notify the same Odin version, but for the ISP, so the ServCo, which then trigger a chain of reaction from a marketing and sales standpoint, where then customer can actually place an order. Again, we are not doing anything; it's fully automated. Then the customer book their appointment. Then those works basically are being delivered to the contractor doing the install. They go, they do an install. Again, take all the evidence and so on. Then activate the service, then automatically the customer receive an invoice, and then it builds them, and all of it was in one system that we built from scratch.
Nuts. And did you not connect a single customer until you had that product ready, or was it the other way around? You were building it as quick as you could, but you still wanted to get...
No, we actually, before the first customer came online, which was the 4th of July 2020, that system was operational. So we built the first version. Obviously, it was not as sophisticated as what we've got currently, but we had already at that point the planning integrated with Odin and the ability to. We had a functional CRM, a functional order management, a functional even provisioning system. So we built actually in 4 weeks a provisioning system that's usually vendors basically takes years basically to build. And I looked at the problem and said that can't be that complicated, and spent basically 4 weeks building one with the main developer, and it turns out it was.
Do you think that's like a little hidden, like, what's the word? Like a power up for you. You're very techie. Like you get the understanding of development and all that jazz, right? Do you think that's like a power up for you and how you've managed to build them so quickly? You're a more techie CEO than a sales CEO, even though you are sales focused as well. But do you think it helps?
I think it's one of the unique things. Not just me. I think it's across the company. If you look at all the people that we have. And if we only focus on maybe a couple, so me and the CFO, is the CFO can still do bookkeeping. So you put him basically as in the financial system, and if he needs to do bookkeeping, he can do bookkeeping. And I think that's one of the key things that we've been trying since the beginning is surround ourselves with people who enjoy basically getting their hands dirty, have a very, very good understanding of the entire value chain, and that's why the merger also with Brsk was so fantastic, because the CEO there, the CEO, and the rest of the team, they were also very happy to get their hands dirty, and I do agree that when you have a very good technical understanding of network, IT, and software, it gives you a lot more tools basically to solve problems, because most people will think about either hiring more people or finding better people or reorganizing basically the structure from a people perspective. Some other people will focus more on processes because they are used to understand processes. Not that many people understand how to solve problems through automations or using technology. And for me, I have the ability to actually do those three things.
Correct.
So building actually a strong team, or I believe I have the best team in fiber basically in the UK. Sometimes I tell people, they say, if you don't believe me, it's fine. Therefore, just look at our numbers, because when you look at the numbers, we might not have the best team, but we've got the best number.
100%.
So, when you look at our ability to do that with the capital efficiency that we've got, we must have processes and systems that are better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do that, because the systems enable us to be a lot more efficient at what we are doing, and the processes that we have makes us a lot more effective. And but yeah, I think it does help me a lot. Yeah, it's been it's very different. I mean, I can go to meet pretty much anybody and talk about our software stack and our network, but at the same time talking about customer service. I think a week ago I was doing a chat with the customer service team.
Chat.
That's correct. Yeah. So because we just launched our new ticketing system, so we rebuilt actually from scratch a version of Zendesk.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure it works. So I went to actually use it, and so I started doing ticket, and it was fantastic. The experience was wonderful.
So you built your own ticketing system, or you rebuilt something from Zendesk?
No, we rebuilt it from scratch. Right. So using Twilio and using Odin. So now we've got a ticketing system. We've got our own chats. It integrates also with Facebook, Twitter, Trustpilot, and everything. So we rebuilt something just custom for us.
Amazing.
And we build out in, I don't know, maybe 3 months or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think that makes it attractive if, for example, which is a topic of conversation we'll probably come on to, is if you're going to now go off and build this mega group and go on more acquisitions, but do you think it's also attractive from a funding standpoint that everything's internal and you have all your own internal tech? That gives is that something they look at? Like,
yeah, it does. I mean, some investors look at that and see a risk. They see lots of red flags about it, because obviously, usually we used to say that you don't get fired for buying Cisco, for example, or buying. So it's the same with buying Salesforce and so on. So usually people feel a lot more comfortable with buying, I don't know, from Salesforce or from NetAdmin or for this type of software, because you have an army of people behind them, lots of people using it. But my experience is IT and network and technology in general can become a huge differentiator in your ability to do things. For us, when we see a problem with a contractor or we want to start tracking more data, I just need to ring basically the developers, and we make a change, and the next day the change is pushed, and we start doing that. If any other company, basically you've got a 3-month change process where it needs to be scoped, it needs to be discussed, it needs to be invoiced, and then it needs to be billed, and so on. For me, it's a 4-hour process. It's I've got an idea, you ring, implement it, and then move on. So on one hand, it's being seen as a risk. On the other hand, it's been an integral part of our success. And I think now I no longer get questioned about it, because maybe 2 or 3 years ago, people thought, okay, maybe the guy's mad. And now it looks like it didn't fall over. It's actually working very well. And Brsk did something very similar. They built from scratch their system. And in reality, most very successful company nowadays see technology and IT as a differentiator, and therefore they embrace that rather than trying to outsource it basically all the time.
100%. So on that then, do you think that's probably why your merger in the back end is going smoother than you thought? Because are they coming into your own internal systems, Brsk, or?
Yeah, so the plan is to leverage the platform that we've built from an IT standpoint, and but it's more because the how we look at the world is so similar between both companies that I think it's a lot simpler, because there's no conflict between the company. Everybody gets around the table, look at the problem, and say, and whatever makes sense wins. So I believe that there is very little politics basically in the company. There are always some politics, obviously, and you can't stop that. But we are very logical and rational and consistent in our approach of everything. We look at a problem, and usually whatever makes sense gets implemented rather than anything else. And because we tend to see fiber basically the same way across both sides, then it makes it very very easy, because I said that there are no real conflict or fight. There is just the goal is simple. Let's go and do it. And therefore it makes it a lot easier. And
So on these brands then, so you said earlier you split them out in your head. You've got Netco and you've got Anchor Connecting Co. So what's the future look like brand wise?
That's a very good question.
And can you talk? I don't know. Is there any plans? You tell me.
There are no solid plan. There are more some things that we are thinking about. So if we start at the ServCo, which is potentially the simplest to deal with, is currently we've got 2 retail brands and 2 retail brands that are performing. At the moment, we kind of want to leave them alone, because we think that they are working. There is
there a positive to having 2 brands? Can you leverage them? Like, can you knock the
you
door
can,
once under one? If it doesn't go well, go back in the other?
No, because we don't want to cross-pollinate across the 2 networks, and the reason for that is we'll just encourage churns and increase our cost of acquisition. Therefore, there is no real benefit for us in having a fight. So they've got their own territory, and because they've got their own territory, the need to bring them together is not something which is immediate. And when we look, but you can leverage and do some testing. So, for example, in terms of product or pricing, so you can make them actually do things differently. So one company, for example, like doing kind of discounts basically on the door, or discounts basically on the phone, whereas the other one cannot do that. And then you can compare actually the performance of the company. Do you get actually a material improvement in terms of your sale to new customer by having a different strategy? Same in the recontracting, for example. You can look at different approaches, and in terms of products as well. So one product, for example, is selling a TV through NetGem. The other one doesn't. One of them.
Are you doing TV now?
Brsk is.
Yeah. Is it new?
No. Brsk has been doing that, I think, for more than a year, I think.
Fine.
And so you can compare again. Whereas for me at the moment, YouFibre has not been doing TV at all. But
do you do any other products under YouFibre? Is it important to your investors or to you to try and increase that average revenue per customer by adding additional products?
No, we've got the usuals. We've got a phone service. We've got kind of a mesh or home Wi-Fi type of service, and we've got some small add-ons like that. We've been looking at whether we should have a mobile product, for example. It's which I believe is sensible, and we'll be looking at that most likely in the future. I like TV. I think TV is an interesting product. Still not
You'll
sure
want to do
that
it yourself,
I've
though,
met-
won't you? Big internal and all that
correct.
jazz. Yeah,
It's,
I'll answer that for
I
you.
want something that actually will. I strongly believe that the Sky Stream product is a fantastic product. I think in the UK, and I think that if we've got the best internet service, if you can't provide something which is at least the same level of what Sky does, do you really want to have that fight? Because for me, you need to be able to say on the door, yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
And if I can't say that, then the only thing I can say it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And it doesn't rock my boat in general. So for me, it has to do more than that. And there might be other products. Or been looking at should we have some security add-on or other stuff. And I'm hearing very positive feedback from saying some VPN stuff and so on. Which why not?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, generating revenue is what we do. So, but we do that with, as I say, we want to remain true to our values. So for us, it has to be the best. It has to. We have to be able to keep basically the level of customer service that we've got, and it needs to be priced in a way that we think is very competitive. And therefore, creating those products takes some time. It's difficult.
Yeah. Mobile's an interesting one because you haven't really heard of any successors coming to market in mobile on an MVNO in the last kind of 20 years. I mean, giffgaff done well, Sky and Tesco done all right, but, bar that, there's been a lot of losses. So it's a bold move.
It's a tough market. I mean, ID Mobile is not doing too bad. I think
ID Mobile is doing
recently,
very well,
or at least looking at the numbers. So,
Correct, yeah.
and it's a bold move, but at the same time, if you look at where I think the market is moving to, is to a fixed and mobile converge type of product. If you look at BT, so it's all about the EE brand, and the EE brand is first and foremost a mobile brand, which now basically gets broadband too. If you look at VMO2, so it's Telefonica, so O2 mobile with the Virgin Media fixed. Granted, VM had a solid also MVNO offering, but it's also with their Volt product a fixed and mobile platform. I do believe that there will be a non-insignificant basically part of the market that will want to bundle mobile and fixed, and therefore finding basically a solution to this type of product is important. That's what I'm looking at. It's not going to be easy, I agree, but I think like anything, it's doable.
Good. So then another big question will be acquisition side. So the Netomnia Brsk was a merger. Now you are coming together next year. Is this going to form? So everybody says we're going to be consolidating and everything else, and there's going to be a number of those going out to eat. Those who are going to be acquiring, right? We're going to, CityFibre say they're one of those. You have to look at NextFibre, probably going to be the other, and then there's going to have to be a group of altnets that come together to create number 3 or number 4, wherever it's going to be, who are going to go off and mop up. And do you think that merger of Netomnia and Brsk has started that, or am I completely pulling stuff out of the air?
No, you're not. But recently I got asked the same questions, but slightly differently. It's okay. It looks like merger and acquisitions are very slow in the UK, and I'm not sure I fully agree with that statement, because I started counting actually all the M&A type of activities, and there are quite a few of them. So if you look at recently, for example, there was CityFibre and LeadFibre. That's one. Yeah. Then you can look at NextFibre and Up. So that's 2. Yeah. Then you can look at Netomnia, YouFibre, and Brsk. Yeah. So that's 3. Then you can look also what happened with the Basalt asset with digital infrastructure and full fiber. So they got together. That's 4. Yeah. Then you can look at the Fern trading assets. So for example, that's 5. And you can carry on and look at actually basically those activity, and all those things have happened over the last 24 months. Yeah. So that's quite a lot of activities are actually happening. And currently there was a Sky News article about Zoom and full fiber. Yeah. I mean, they say Freedom Fiber, but
Sky managed to get all of the inside gossip and leak it early. They are.
I have no idea where they get that from. Another one was Freedom Fiber and VX Fiber, for example. That's another one.
But none have been your size. So
That's correct. That is correct. But that's because it's I think among the larger players like CityFibre, for example, or Netomnia, or HyperOptic, or Community Fiber, and potentially GigaClear. So those are the 5 largest basically platforms in the UK.
Yeah.
I think all those platforms are still raising capital. So CityFibre is currently out raising capital.
Yeah.
Most likely make an announcement later this week. And we'll, I think recently HyperOptic got some money from UKIB. Community Fibre also raised a bit more money. I think less than a year ago, GigaClear was raising some capital. So I think the 5 largest are still or were still, depending on where we are now, because it changed to focus on organic, basically, growth.
Yeah.
And when you have the ability to grow organically, this is always simpler, just to be clear. So currently we do 100,000 a month.
Yeah.
I think there are some assets out there that are fantastic. So I think the Zoom, for example, asset, I think is a great asset, or the Truly asset is a great asset. And you've got, but all those assets, I mean, one has 200,000 home, it's 2 months of bill for me. And there is, I think, 30,000 customers. It's 2 months of customer acquisition, not even that. Or you've got Truly, I think is maybe 370,000. It's like a quarter of build. And they've got, I don't know what's their customer base, but that will be, again, a couple of months of customer acquisition. It's a very disruptive process to actually merge or acquire a company like that when we can do so much already to grow organically. So I would love to look at those things, but in reality, I think all the company potentially needs to mature first, and the company that do not have large scale, like maybe 1 million plus or something like that, I think they will start aggregating together to try to get to the 1 million mark.
Yeah.
And then there will be kind of all the players with 1 million homes basically will look at each other and say, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And but I think it's slowly happening. The big question that nobody has managed to answer is, like, among basically the top 4, the top 5, or even the top 4, because for me, I think the bar is more like 1 million plus, and I think people should try to get to 1 million plus. I'm not saying if you have 500,000 homes, you don't have a great business, or 200,000. I think those businesses are very good. But as I say, if you're growing at 100,000 a month, it's a lot of work basically to integrate a company just for a couple of months of bill. Whereas if you look at 1 million plus, even at my bill rate, it's a year worth of work.
Correct.
And potentially, if you get that company with also it's already a bit positive, or it becomes very meaningful basically to bring that within your group, and that's how we look at it. So really, the question is between those 4 basically: Community Fibre, HyperOptic, CityFibre, and Netomnia. Is what do we do?
Yeah.
Is there a combo? Is there something that can work? And obviously, the answer is we don't know. So we'll have to see. But
So if you're building at this rate, and so are a couple of other brands, I don't know actually who's building the same amount as you at the moment. You may be
the only one that is most likely similar is NextFibre.
Yeah.
Their latest number, actually, they were slightly ahead of us, but they added some of their acquisition from up inside the number. So I don't know. I think it got added just to prop up a bit the number. So, sorry, NextFibre. But CityFibre, I think, has a decent bill rate, but not anymore at our level.
Yeah.
After that, HyperOptic and Community Fibre are not growing very fast. So we are really kind of in a unique position.
Yeah.
Where we still have a lot of growth and a lot of capital.
How far can you plan ahead, though? Because we're going to get full up soon, right? And then what? Is it then we concentrate on overbuilding, or is it then just we've done our bit, let's connect? Because at this rate, between you and another, if there was just another 2 doing a similar connection rate, we're going to hit our target on time, if not early. right, of this.
Yeah, I mean the key question is how is as you ask about consolidation is how is it going to look?
Yeah.
Is it 3 players? Is it 4 players? Is it 2 players?
Yeah.
I don't know. And because I think there is still a question on what VMO2 basically is going to do in the UK. So it's everybody is still asking that question, and I think the jury is out, and that's why for us we always focus on only what we can control.
Yeah.
Same with wholesale. We have the same approach on our metric is focus on building cheap, put customers on the network, keep those customers happy, and whatever happens is whatever happens. So we don't worry too much from there. We think that we create as much optionality as possible to potentially become a consolidator.
Yeah.
Which I would love to. I mean, it's no secret that for me, I will happily basically consolidate all the altnets in the future and be basically the third player basically in the UK. I have no problem doing that, and I think I could do a relatively good job at it. But
Do you get inquiries? Do people reach out to you a lot because you're quite ambitious and very vocal and at the front of every press media most days?
Yeah, I get inquiries, or we get conversations, but I think among the more meaningful players in terms of size, I think it's still everybody's still looking at each other.
Do you have like secret quarterly meetings with the other big networks where you're all in like a dark room?
Yeah,
and you've
in a
got
secret island.
Yeah.
In a secret island. We fly a private jet, arrive there. It's like I forgot the Davos type of thing. No, there is no such thing like that. I think the fiber industry is actually relatively friendly. I think we all know each other. There's sometimes a bit of friendly banter or a bit of animosity, but in reality, we all understand that we are all in it together.
Yeah.
And especially if you look at the history, so when it started with hyperoptic, GigaClear, CityFibre, and Community Fibre, and kind of the 4 largest companies basically from the start, it's So we do meet, we do have chats, but at the end of the day, it's relatively limited what you can do. But I believe that the future is at some point everybody will have to get together. How?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. I just know that.
Is it any choice of the CEOs, or really is it all the lenders behind it and who they favour the most and who's performed the best?
I think the CEO has an important part. Obviously, there is the weight of money. At the end of the day, whoever is putting the cash has control of what's happening, and that's quite important. But I think the job of the CEO is to share information, educate, and really help basically creating that strategy basically in the company, because you have to be able to recognize basically the opportunity as the threat that your market basically has, and to be able to navigate all those things. So if you report the wrong information to your board or read the market basically wrong, then you will end up making the wrong decisions. So you might end up basically moving to a market where you shouldn't, or you might end up focusing on being vertically integrated, whereas maybe you should be a wholesale only. So you have as a CEO the ability to shape basically the strategy and work with your investors and the board in delivering basically that strategy. But at the same time, as I said, there is a weight of money. You have to respect basically the fact that investors and banks basically have put a lot of capital behind you, and they might not like what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then
do you enjoy going to board meetings?
Oh yeah, I love my board meetings. So they are very, especially when all your numbers are good.
Yes, yeah.
It's a very pleasant activity. But no, it's I think we see a lot of opportunities in the UK. I believe what we've achieved as a group, i.e. the altnet, is phenomenal, and and the future is going to become even more interesting, and therefore I look forward to it. But I take it very seriously. So for me, our ability to deliver, and this is why I think I'm one of the only CEO in that in the altnet sector who is comfortable with sharing all their numbers basically every quarter and hold myself to account. Yeah. At the end of September, I even say how many customers I will have by the end of the year, and I hold myself to account basically. Whereas most of the company will not take that risk, but it tells you also the belief that I have in our build and sales engine. So it's a very old machine. Sometimes there are issues.
But it's your ability to be able to fix them quickly with your internal machine.
That's correct. And we have the ability to influence board and investors, and I think it's not just because at the end of the day you have to execute the plan. And even if you're going to do some mergers and acquisition and so on, the CEOs and the management teams will have to deliver basically that plan, and therefore it's an integral part of the plan.
Absolutely that. The Totsko piece. So I still do join the stand-ups, and on the early ones, you were extremely vocal on those meetings and quite ruthless, should we say? And then you ended up being a part of Totsko, and then you came in, done your bit, and then dropped off. What was that journey, and why did you get involved?
I just wanted it launched.
Yeah.
So for me, I was tired of listening to the excuses of the solution not being delivered and being pushed basically in the future.
Are you happy with it now?
No. No, it's not. As I think to give credit to the Totsko as an organization. I think they've delivered it, and I think it was a hard task. But I think one of the reasons why it was hard is lots of the technology leadership from the start was not actually what I would expect. And I think there were plenty of decisions that were made that made it a lot more difficult. And one of my concerns now is that they stick basically with those choices now that this is launched, and they never actually reopen basically those issues to fix them. So for example, currently there is a match rate of about 60%. That can't be good. It's this is not like people didn't know that it will be bad, but that's because of the decision that were made from the start. That it made it difficult. Or you look at, I'm a huge proponent of end-to-end encryption on that platform, which currently basically all the messages that are transiting get archived basically and can be read, and that is also bad, especially when you see what happened to TalkTalk in the future, or what happened in the countries. Is you want to make sure that all the information which is protected under GDPR basically never gets into the wrong hands, and instead of actually not even having that visible within the Totsko hub, they decided to make it visible and store it. So there are lots of decisions for that for me that just I can't comprehend.
Yeah.
And now the thing costs £7 to £8 million to run per year, to do 5 switches a minute.
Yeah.
It's 5 switches a minute, and for me, I can't comprehend that. So I understand how we got to that, and I think, as I say, I think it's fantastic what they've done, delivering it basically. But at some point, I think it's time to go back basically to the drawing board and say, okay, what did we learn?
Yeah.
Is there a way to make it 10 times cheaper with a match rate of 100%, and with a level of encryptions that if something happened, it only involves basically one CP because they made a mistake. And people should be comfortable with going back to the drawing board and say, what we've done so far is fantastic. We've done it what we've got. We've learned from our mistakes, and this is basically the new proposal. To some extent, this is what we did also in fiber. So my first experience with fiber was community fiber. I made a ton of mistakes there, and then when you take basically all that knowledge and say, okay, now if I were to restart from scratch, what can I do? Then you get Netomnia. And that was the same for the Brsk team. So most of the Brsk team come from Vumatel in South Africa. made lots of mistakes, actually very scared of merger and acquisition because they had bad experience there. But for me, I'm very naive, so I look at those things. I've never done it, so can't be that hard. And but when my fear at the moment is more that they don't learn basically from all those shortcomings, and therefore don't evolve basically that platform at a platform which is much cheaper to run, much more secure, with a match rate that I think the standard should be 100%. It shouldn't be okay. How do we go from 60 to 70? It should be how do we get to 100?
Yeah, and answered it very well. Was that the kind of message you tried to get across when you went on the inside, that we should start from scratch, and it wasn't taken very well, or you just wanted to go in and see behind the scenes?
No, I wanted to go there just to deliver it. When I was campaigning to become a director, as I made it clear, I don't want to change things, because changing things will just mean that basically it gets even pushed back, which didn't make any sense. Yeah. For me, it was deliver it. As soon as it's delivered, step back, reflect, and then now the contract with TechM is a several years contract, so you can't even change it within months. But now you've got a solid 3 years basically where you can properly think about it and decide basically how to do it, and make it much better for the CPs, but also make it much better for the consumers, and everybody wins. Whether they do that or not, I can't tell you. But for me, that's I think one of the key challenge. And actually, I resigned and then I reapply for the job. I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Yeah, I reapply for it because I wanted a new mandate. I applied the first time to make sure it was being delivered, and now it's delivered.
Yeah.
And then I resigned, and then I decided to reapply because now I say I want a new mandate. If people want to make it 10 times cheaper with 100% match and completely secure, then elect me. If you don't want that, then don't elect me.
When was that then? Because it was only 2 weeks ago, which was their latest meeting where they announced you stepped down.
That's good.
Okay, fine. In terms of, let's finish on we've done an hour. It goes rapid, doesn't it? In terms of innovation, say there's only so much you can do in broadband, right? You can up the speed. You've done that. You've done the 8 gig. You can maybe put a piece of better hardware in. You know, what more can you do to the network and the anchor brand that you haven't already done? And do you have any plans? And if I've put you on the spot, I apologise.
Yeah, I don't think it's only about the broadband network itself, because I think you can innovate in plenty of other aspects. As I say, you can innovate on how it gets consumed. Basically, I still think that most people have not explored on how to use mobile apps, for example, in terms of customer service, in terms of provisioning, in terms of ordering, in terms of doing all those things. So we are about to launch our mobile app. So for us, we've not launched it yet. But I think there are lots of things that you can do. Like the amount of people who wait, for example, for the engineer when there is an issue to turn up in their house. What about you have a mobile app when you see the engineer, you see in which house they are currently, you can start talking to that person. And I think there are lots of things that you can do in redefining the user experience actually with this type of product. What about when you go on holiday, you can pause your broadband, for example. So every year, basically, there is maybe 2 or 4 weeks, basically, where you can press the button, it gets paused because, I don't know, you're in Italy or you're in Spain or you're in Mauritius, basically just relaxing. Or maybe not, because you've got so many IoT devices that you need to keep the internet on. So, but I think the innovation, I think, will come more from how you consume it, will come more from how you run, basically, those companies, which by virtue of running them better, you can potentially make it cheaper or differentiate some of your product. As you said, there is so much that you can do on the broadband itself as a product. That's why we are looking at 50G PON now. You got Wi-Fi 7, then maybe Wi-Fi 8, and all those things. But I think for me, it's more about the experience now of a customer, basically, on the network, and the experience from a wholesale standpoint as well. I think there are lots of things that you can do. When you look at the API or the application that you get when you consume it from OpenReach and so on, it's not great. And therefore, I think there are still a lot of innovation that you can have, basically, in the back office or in user experience or in pricing that can materially, basically, improve the service that you propose, that you offer. Because for me, I think it's everything together. It's not just I get broadband basically from a modem or router, and then that's it. I think you can do a lot more than that, and that's what we are exploring now. Is how do we do it? And yeah.
It's interesting on that fault part where you said like there's an app you can see where the engineer's is and you might be able to have chats with him because he's around the corner and things like that. No one's really ever spoke about innovating on the fault side. And I suppose that's is that something that you concentrate on now? You've got 150,000 customers. We know full fibre is more reliable and everything else. When it comes to the fault arena, what is it that you're looking at? And is that something you
we are looking a lot more at being proactive, basically. When we find fault, being able to communicate better. We've got now automatic outage detection, basically, that we have in the company. So we keep basically innovating there. But as I said, it's all about the user experience and the service experience. And I think this is where the innovation. I mean, sometimes I compare it to what happened when you go from how you used to do banking 10 years ago compared to now when you can have Revolut, Monzo, and Starlink. But even when you look at those products, what it did, it actually pushed basically all the other banks to step up. Because now, when you look at the HSBC app, for example, and so on, actually those are very good apps now. But it happens only because the challenger banks basically decided to show basically what it was possible. We then redefine basically how users are consuming basically a product. That's to some extent for me the next frontier basically of what we are doing is how do we redefine basically the experience of ordering, delivering, and supporting basically those type of services that makes it that even if one day they churn, there is that gap. There is that void, basically. Now they went back, basically, to use BT, for example. I say, it's painful. Yeah. As I used to have a button, basically, to do that, or I used to be able to do that, or when there is a...
So true.
I used to be able to go to to Sainsbury because I know that the engineer is like 15 minutes away, and I've got time to get something. And so I think this is where I think it's going to go, and I don't think that anybody currently has cracked that in the UK, and hopefully we'll be the first one cracking it.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I had a question then, and it's gone. I'm really gutted.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. What was it? You're talking about faults. It's gone. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to speak about? Well, I try and think of my question.
No, I think maybe one thing is, and that's something that I fight a lot in the altnet industry is people tend to believe, and you see that even when you read ISP review or you speak to investors or
other
analysts.
News brands are available.
Sorry?
Other news brands are available.
That's correct. Fibrenews as well.
And you had to look at the screens to know it.
When you read about those things, there is always the altnets are bad at take-up. It's always about somehow we've got a very bad reputation in term of take-up, and I completely disagree with that statement, because if you focus on the companies that have an ISP, so that's excluding CityFibre, because CityFibre has Vodafone, TalkTalk, Zen, and so on. But if you look at the hyper optic take-up, it's a very healthy 30%. So it's when you compare it to BT, Virgin Media, and Sky. I mean, BT and Virgin Media are in the low 30s. Hyper optic has managed to deliver a level of take-up that is very similar to those companies in a much shorter time frame.
Yeah.
If you look at Community Fiber, GigaClear, for example, it's in the 20s now, and therefore it's higher than Sky, and will grow basically being higher than BT and Virgin. And if you look at YouFibre or Brsk, where I think now we're at about 11%, I think, blended, but 24 months ago, blended, it was 5%. And during that time, we increased the network by 1.5 million homes.
Yeah.
So doubling basically your blended penetration while building 1.5 million homes. It's like completely insane in term of the growth rate. And when you look at TrueSpeed or those companies that have in the 20% of fibers, which is in the 30% and so on, as I will argue that we're actually taking a lot of customers, and we are performing very well in term of take up. I mean, most of the large ISPs are losing customers. Vodafone is the only one currently adding customers at a very good growth. But even the Vodafone growth currently, we are YouFibre and Brsk combined are outpacing actually that growth. And I think that's one thing that's if people had to take one thing from that interview is actually from a take-up perspective, we are doing very well.
Yeah.
We've actually make actually all the large ISPs lose customers.
That's interesting.
And taking basically and getting to the level of 30%, as I say, it's the same as what BT or Virgin Media basically are delivering today. So if the standard is performing better than the largest retail brands, we do. And I think that's one very important point.
It's interesting you say that because we do tarnish anything under 20% as negative. And I don't know where that comes from. It might come from when we see a altnet struggling and then maybe be no more. Then the first thing that's reported on is, their penetration rate was only 12%. And it could come from that, but you make a very valid point. But you say that the big players are at 30% take up. Is that the case? That's a bold statement. Do you know what I mean?
Virgin Media has 5.8 million customers on, I think, about 17 million homes now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can run the numbers, and I think BT has 8.2 million. I think customer on kind of 30 million footprints, and it's. And if you look at the churn of those companies, the churn is very high. The churn of those companies are around 1.3 to 1.5%.
Yeah.
The churn of the altnet tends to be 0.8, 0.9. And we have a problem. We have a small footprint. Therefore, for us, we don't have an off-net strategy. Therefore, we lose most of the customer that we lose is because people are moving out.
Yeah.
A lot of those large players don't have basically that challenge. So I think that's why for me, I tend to fight against basically that misconception that from a take-up, actually, we are bad because compared to what was the standard? Yeah. Yes, we don't have 50% take-up. I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a blended penetration or on a cohort basis, we'll all deliver about 30% take-up.
Yeah.
And 30% take-up is what BT
standard.
and VM basically are delivering today, and it's much higher than what Sky is delivering.
Yeah.
So we are not good compared to what?
Yeah. Will business footprint ever be a focus for you? Like you see some altnets who offer like lease line services because they know they can get a big chunky pipe in it. They can get 150, 200 quid a month and things like that. Is that ever going to be a focus? And have you had any business footprint to this day?
Yeah, we do. We do have hundreds of B2B customers. And
is it on an FTTP? Is it on a full fiber product? Not
yes,
on
FTTP products.
Yeah.
And we have also some lease lines or dark fiber, but in a very small amount. So it's relatively marginal. It will become a focus in the future.
Is that part of the PXC relationship? Do you think?
I definitely see that relationship being fantastic for us from a B2B perspective, because there is one key difference between B2B and B2C is the customer service.
Yeah.
So when on the residential side, people are upset with their providers. Mid-contract price rises, new pricing versus existing customer, therefore loyalty issue, network that has been failing to merge, therefore disgruntled. And therefore, really, when you open the door, is you don't see a lot of advocacy and loyalty, basically, from B2C customers. On the B2B side, I think it's very different.
Yeah.
It's I think that a lot of the service is providing using EADs, for example, from Orange, which is a formidable product. Yeah. It doesn't fail very often. It's very good. The speed is symmetric. It's uncontended. it's lots of good things. So if you knock at the door of that guy and you say, okay, what about I sell you something? Say, but I like what I've got. There is nothing wrong with it. Yes, it's expensive, but the service itself is and therefore it's a much tougher sell, because now you can't really beat it on speed. You can just match it. Customer service, the customer is happy. So now you can only compete on price.
Yeah.
And when you only compete on price, there is so much basically that you can convince person basically to move just on price, because you tell them, yeah, but it's so much cheaper. Yeah, but you know what? I've been with it for a while. When I compare it to the price of my rent and everything else, it's a very small amount. Therefore, we'll come back later. So I think there is a lot more inertia.
Yeah.
I think over time we'll get more, because I do think that we can provide something which is more differentiated and better by using a PON type of the technology. Therefore, you can do it materially cheaper, but it's a much tougher sell, and the volume is much smaller. Therefore, if the volume is much smaller and it's much tougher, this is not how you're going to make your business case basically work. With the volume of infrastructure that we build, if we were to focus on B2B only, we'll never make basically a return. So far as B2C is number one, and as the footprint grows, then we'll try to get more. And the go-to market is also materially different. So on the B2B, it's a lot of channel, basically type of relationship, wholesale, and so on.
Yeah.
And therefore, you need to build basically that. Whereas the other thing, I can brute force it. You can hire lots of door-to-door people, lots of telesales people, get people who are great at digital marketing and so on, and you can put it all together and go to market.
Yeah.
Building a lot of channel relationship and trying to break into that, this is a lot harder, because they are very well-oiled, basically, machines. It's working very well, and therefore it's a lot harder.
But do you not think if you break into that channel part, like say you go into one of the brands like, I don't know, ITS or Elevate or Geocom or Gamma, each of those have got 500 or 1,000 resellers each. As soon as you interconnect into one of those, their 1,000 resellers are going on, putting a postcode into the check, into their online portal, and you're becoming available. That's business for nothing.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
You just want the plan.
But I think a lot of people breaking out into wholesale into B2B miss that part. They go off and build a direct channel, which, hats off to them, is absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that.
Hard.
But it's hard. It's damn hard. It takes time, and it takes personalities who have been in the industry for a long time to go off with their black book and get those 50, 100 resellers. But if you just interconnect into 5 of the giants, although your margin may be smaller, you're not doing any work. Suddenly you haven't got 50 salespeople going out. Suddenly you haven't got a huge provisioning team. If you've got all internal software which automates everything, then suddenly your costs are very small, but your return's very large. So
I agree with you, and that's but also to work with those large partners that you've described, I think it requires a bit more scale than what we used to have, and
it requires the right technology, which is key. Correct. And that's why a lot of them that want to come and break out into the market and sometimes go and interconnect will go to the table with a conversation. They'll look at you and say, right, where's your availability API, where's your provision API and your rejection APIs? And they go, oh, give us a day and we'll go build it. Suddenly go off externally and say, I've got 200 grand, build me something. It just doesn't happen, right? So again, I think that's something that might be a power up that you have, because I assume you've got more APIs than most because of your internal tech guys. So you'll be interested.
No, yeah, correct. So it's definitely on the roadmap. As I said, the our business plan is really geared towards B2C, and this is where it's been most of our focus. But we've started kind of accelerating basically our B2B approach, and as you mentioned, so PXE I think would be a key relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that, you mentioned Gamma and so on. So those are also some relationship that's some companies that we are talking to, and I do believe that through that approach, basically we'll get there. But it's not been our focus so far.
Fine, happy days. Jeremy, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Goodbye. Thank you.